Dex, are you ready for your spotlight here? I think if you can bring some modern quarterback examples to the table.
Football.
Great. Joe Namath, Alabama. Let's start there.
Call it my own.
Joe Montana, Notre Dame.
All these people that are ripping Mac Jones, and we'll do a film review on Mac Jones at some point here too. Because, Alabama quarterbacks never pan out. Oh, Joe Namath.
Yeah, Joe Namath. Yeah.
Joe Namath panned out.
Same with your
60
school.
years ago. Notre Dame.
Joe Montana.
Ian Book. Actually,
Joe Thiesman.
Our guy Sage Rosenfels, he actually worked with Ian Book last offseason. So we can get our guy back on and talk about Ian Book. Vikings third-round draft pick quarterback, maybe. So Dex reviews. He reviewed a bidet a couple weeks ago.
I did.
He has reviewed, was it Zach Wilson from BYU?
My man.
And now Dex reviews Kyle Trask, quarterback prospect from Florida. Let's start out with, we'll put the rewind sort of framework on this.
Okay.
Your favorite thing about Kyle Trask?
Well, he's a prolific quarterback. Like this dude leads all of college football in like every major statistic. He's put up humongous numbers. I love that. I know that can be inflated because the college game's a lot different than the NFL game, but he was first in college football in yards, first in touchdowns. I know originally it looked like he was going to be a Heisman favorite. Apparently the odds have sunken on that. I think after maybe Justin Fields' big performance and Mac Jones also having a big year. However, this dude can make a lot of big time throws. Obviously, Florida has produced some decent quarterbacks before too in college ranks.
Decent college quarterbacks.
In college ranks.
I don't need Tim Tebow running around the Vikings uniform here. Or who was the other guy? Was Rex Grossman a Florida quarterback?
He might have been.
Yep, he was.
I think Cam Newton was technically a Florida quarterback before he transferred to Auburn, right?
Danny Werfel. Remember that guy?
There you go.
Hell yeah.
But he's prolific. And I believe the game that I watched with him specifically was the UK against Kentucky. Yeah, it's the University of Kentucky was the game that I watched when I saw Kyle Trask. The positives that I took away from him was that he can look off wide receivers. Okay, so he's not afraid to look them off, and so the eyes are not locked in all the time. He's not afraid to stay in the pocket. Now, I wouldn't say he's mobile, so that's a potential issue because we've been looking for the mobile quarterback and the quarterback with awareness.
Is he like Tom Brady lack of mobility or Kirk Cousins lack of mobility?
Probably the latter. Probably more in the Kirky boy.
Can he shuffle in the pocket to blindside pressure?
Yeah, I think he could. I think he has the potential to do that. I think he does.
That's a start.
Mm-hmm. So he's not afraid to stay in the pocket. Quick release. Accuracy, it's looked all right. I mean, as a whole, he's completed 68% of his passes. But some scouts that I have talked to have said there might be some questions with his accuracy at the NFL level. Because I do my research here.
There is an article on PFF.com that says why Florida's Kyle Trask is not an elite SEC quarterback.
Ooh, yikes. PFF coming in hot there. He does have a great tight end target in Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts might be one of the best might be one of the best targets for the NFL draft in the tight end ranks. Yeah, Kyle Pitts is insanely good.
Yep.
They hooked up for a lot of big catches. I would say Pitts, it might be a security blanket, so maybe you need a tight end security blanket like Irv Smith and Tyler Conklin if you were a Kyle Trask coming to the Minnesota Vikings.
Okay, what was your least favorite thing about Kyle Trask when you watched him against Kentucky?
So I would say the lack of mobility, not the best deep ball. There were a couple shots that weren't even close to being on target. I personally liked his footwork. Experts didn't like his footwork.
Okay.
So I think that's also very important.
I weigh those opinions equally, by the way. Experts and Declan watching the Kentucky film.
So what I asked an expert about, and this is what he was quoted. He told me this. He said, lack of mobility, lack of a howitzer. Love the word howitzer in a quarterback.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Howitzer.
That's a bad
baby.
That's a bad combination right there, though. I want one of them.
His mechanics are improving, but still can get shoddy, which plays down his accuracy.
Now people will say, well, Aaron Rodgers had to have his mechanics overhauled. But for every Aaron Rodgers, there's probably like 100 other guys that have bad mechanics and are now insurance salesmen.
And you're not going to have Kyle Trask sit for 3 years either, probably.
And,
that's the other thing.
Well, Zim would love to, actually.
And the final two,
just like a quarterback never to play.
Knocks on him is his decision-making has improved this year, but he still has to understand his limitations and not try to make throws that he can't. That'll be a big issue in the NFL if not corrected.
According to Pro Football Focus, in terms of red flags, there are a lot of red flags within Kyle Trask's game. Most of his 2020 production has stemmed from scheme, play calling, and a slew of playmakers at his disposal. So they're basically saying, yeah, it's coaching. Like pretty much any quarterback can step in there at Florida with a bunch of 4- and 5-star recruits and do what he's doing. So what was your main takeaway watching Kyle Trask? How would you feel if the Vikings drafted him in the first or second round in 2020?
I would have big time trepidation if it's a first round pick, especially if it's at 14 where the Vikings are. I think for most mocks, it looks like he's going to be a day 2 quarterback, maybe in the second round, but he's going to be probably a project quarterback.
See, so that's good stuff. Thank you for the review.
Mike, and one last thing.
Mm-hmm.
The comp, I think best case scenario he turns into Matt Ryan. I think that's the best case scenario.
That's pretty damn good if that
yeah,
is.
but that's best case.
That's best case. Yeah. I think more likely he's probably Colt McCoy.
So he's probably realistically a 3rd round pick, right?
I think he's a day 2. I think he's a 2nd to 3rd round pick, day 2 guy who's a project. I mean, Kirk Cousins was a day 3 pick, wasn't he? He was a 5th round pick.
Wasn't Kirk a third? He was a third round pick.
And then the wild card is, Joe Burrow came out of nowhere and put up this insanely prolific year at LSU. Wild card is Joe Burrow would be insanely, that would be the wild card. But I think best case he turns into Matt Ryan.
See, the funny thing is, and we can maybe we do some research on this. You look at a lot of the star quarterbacks now, Tom Brady and Russell Wilson. Now, Russell Wilson, I think the biggest concern was just height and size, because there's just not that many guys under 6 feet that are successful quarterbacks. It's like Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, and then maybe Kyler Murray if he pans out. So that was legitimate. Tom Brady was like, well, he can't move. He's got a pretty good arm. He's not really athletic at all. So like all these knocks on guys, I want to know, what is the thing that they miss? Like how in retrospect, it's egregious that a guy like Tom Brady and his leadership and his drive and obsession, right?
Yep.
So like the only way after all of that, that Declan just went through and talking to some smart people behind the scenes, if Kyle Trask isn't that mobile and Kyle Trask's arm isn't a howitzer, which is an amazing way to phrase it, right? But if there was a way for someone to say, however, he is obsessed with football, he's a great leader, and he will overcome some of these physical deficiencies, that's the only way I would look to take a gamble. Otherwise, like for me, if the Vikings are going to take a flyer, let's say even 2nd, 3rd round, mobility is going to be super important. I want a guy that can overcome a bad offensive line, like Jalen Hurts in the 2nd round by the Eagles. That was a really good pick.
Yeah,
and it's panning out, even though Nate Sudfeld is more trustworthy late in games.
Kirk was 4th round, by the way.
Okay.
4th round, 3rd round, 4th round.
Okay.
So so the problem though now is with a guy like Trask or Brady too, is I think that the movement in the league itself has shifted even more towards looking down on a guy like Brady, who you don't know about, but who clearly is not athletic and can't move. Now, his ability to sense pressure was outstanding, but that's an intangible that you probably can't see immediately. Yeah. So I would say that if I'm going to take a chance on a quarterback, it's probably going to be at least a quarterback that I think has the potential to move.
Yes.
So like if Kyle Trask doesn't have a super strong arm and he really can't move well, I'm probably going to drop him to a day 3 guy personally, because, in this league now, if I play him and he can't move and his arm's okay, right, what do I got?
Like basically all of these people who say, well, but look at how many quarterbacks who are mobile have won Super Bowls. It's like a small handful. You almost have to take everything that happened in the first 45 Super Bowls in years and put it in a different category. And then look at like the last 5 to 10 years and all these guys, whether it's like Andrew Luck's mobility, he never won a Super Bowl, but like Andrew Luck, Josh Allen, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, the fact that half the quarterbacks in the NFL can now just like escape pressure means that you better be really, really good in all the other areas if you can't do that. And that's why we're also so harsh on Kirk. It's like, well, he's already starting behind the 8 ball because most of his competitors are more mobile than he is. And so he's got to be more accurate, which he is, better leader, question marks, et cetera, et cetera. So good rundown there on
who's next?
Trask. Yeah, who is next?
Matt, let's do Mac Jones.
Mac Jones? All right.
Let's do Mac Jones.
Mac Jones.
I think
call your sources, Declan.
I think you should find find a couple games.
Country singer extraordinaire and a quarterback.
Talk to your scouts, talk to your PFF people.
I can do that.
See what they say behind the scenes.
Yeah, I got sources.
And then we'll maybe pick out another bidet between those two for you to.
So how do we rank the top 3 QBs in the draft right now? Lawrence.
I think Wilson is second. I think
that's what I'm curious about.
Second.
But if Fields comes back in the national championship and plays a great game, and he was so damn good against Clemson, he'll probably jump back to second, I would think.
Maybe. I think those are the top three. However, the number 2 and number 3 shake out. Then the big question is, who's the fourth best quarterback? Some people say it's Mac Jones.
Yeah.
In fact, I think our guy Mel Kiper I want to say Mac Jones was 4th or 5th on his.
I like what I saw from Mac Jones.
And I think Tankathon had him going in about 17th, 18th overall.
Interesting.
So the Vikings
that is
14th.
interesting.
Well, if you make that draft pick, it's a little bit like the Packers. Like if you're in a win now window and you're pushing forward, why would you waste a resource? And people are going to say, well, turned out well. The Packers are 13-3. Imagine how much better they would be if they had taken like Justin Jefferson or like traded up to take a stud wide receiver.
Percentage chance right now, in your guys' opinion, of what the percentage is that the Vikings would take a quarterback in the first round right now.
So this is just what the Vikings would do.
Yeah.
So what we would do. Right?
So what is? Yes, exactly right. What do you think they will do percentage wise?
I think there's a 3 to 5% chance they take a quarterback in the first round.
I would say 15, and I know it's still very, very bullish.
I think it's 1% right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think that the GM and head coach are going to lay out a plan for the people that own this team, that we are very close. We're going to get guys back.
Mm-hmm.
And they are going to continue to say, right or wrong, we've got our guy.
Totally agree. And they're going to look at the second half of the season and say, listen, something clicked with Kirk. We can keep that. Let's keep the system intact. We'll just put Clint Kubiak in as the coordinator, like whatever that looks like.
I hate that
Same
thought,
system.
but I think you might be right.
Run it back again. And then with the first round pick, we're going to get an offensive lineman. And then with the third round pick, we're going to get an interior defensive line. 3 techniques.
This is where Zim reaches across the table and strangles Rick and says, don't you mean we're going to get a 3 technique? Yeah, that's what I meant. 3 technique.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we're going to track down